Sophia, why has social media been important for marginalized groups in raising visibility and awareness around issues that may be neglected by traditional media outlets?
Let me first just point out that I understand the irony of like being a white woman of privilege who's sitting on the stage and being like, let me tell you why social media is helpful for marginalized people. But one of the things that I've learned in having the privilege of being able to signal boost for communities that have not often gotten their due in news coverage and media coverage is that coverage has been biased in all the ways that society is biased. And it's been incredibly important for so many of us who've been able to create these partnership groups, these whisper networks on social media where we have exposure to each other and the ability to help each other in ways that prior to these technologies hitting the marketplace, we couldn't do. There is the ability to create a trending topic on Twitter, to take over the algorithm on Instagram, and to get global conversations going about the Ferguson protests, about the death of Nia Wilson. And it would take me the rest of this panel to name all of the other people of color in our country who've been murdered in the last couple of years, whose names so many of us know because they get populated on social media. Then, as Jessica can tell you, so much of the news takes note and the coverage starts changing, and it really, in a way, for all its problems, gives us, the people, the ability to advocate for what actually affects us.
Mm-hmm. And Lara, we talk about trending and hashtags, and it has changed the way we look and measure influence. But what does influence mean to Twitter? What constitutes a successful hashtag movement? Like, what's the end result there?
Yeah, I think what's so special about social media and Twitter in particular is that like influence used to be something that happened when you were famous. You had to be famous to have that platform to be able to speak to people. And I think that Twitter has literally given everyone with a microphone to be able to say and start a conversation, jump into a conversation, start a global conversation, and really just sort of inject directly into culture in a way that was never possible before. Mm-hmm. Whether you're Lizzo and Ariana Grande with a single last night. You guys hear it? It's really good. Or a spicy chicken sandwich, or something so much more purposeful. I think that the ability to reach an audience like in a much broader way is a unique capability of social media.
And what ultimately, so much of it is in progress, but like what ultimately comes of trending hashtags like Me Too and Black Lives Matter? Do you have a particular like case study or something that you guys follow that you've seen really move the needle beyond?
There's so many. I think that Me Too is particularly something that I personally gives me a lot of pride when I think about working at Twitter. There were 25 million uses of the hashtag Me Too. Wow. Toronto, yes. And it's something that, the movement lives on and the hashtag lives on. Like, I don't know if you guys saw yesterday, there was a comedian in New York.
Kelly Bachman.
Kelly Bachman.
There it is.
Thank you, Sophia. Kelly Bachman, who was doing a set in a nightclub in New York City, a young actors workshop, and Harvey Weinstein was in the audience.
I saw that, yeah.
Yes, that's the appropriate response. And Kelly very articulately, humorously spoke about him being in the room. And then she tweeted about it. It was her second tweet ever. She now has 64,000 followers. Wow. So you should give her a follow. But Me Too lives on. And I think that the Twitter being the microphone behind that gives me a lot of pride in working there.
And Jessica, obviously, in all of this, your platform, News Not Noise, how do you really stay the course? How do you personally, your background as a journalist, obviously it's just embedded, but how do you personally manage and mitigate really staying above the noise in your daily work?
That is the challenge.
Yeah.
So when I decided to start reporting the news on Instagram, people thought, well, this is a space that's all about noise and distraction, and you can't actually convey real information because no one trusts social media. And it's not true. It's just a vehicle to reach more ears and eyes, right? So I think there's an opportunity for more people with really serious journalism credentials to enter these spaces and start using them for hard reporting. And so I just asserted that I know what I'm talking about and I'm making these choices, and you can like it or not, but check my background. I do think that there's a challenge in social media because we all know that these are engines also for disseminating anything, right? And what I would urge audiences to do is, for the most part, watch social media as a way to monitor trends. One of the things we talk about in the media is how narratives form. You know, something starts, a story happens, the chief of staff goes to the White House press briefing room, says things, but how is that going to get covered? What's the storyline going to be? If you're on Twitter, you're going to see a whole bunch of reporters in that space start talking to each other. Don't take those tweets as gospel. Read them as like the formation of a storyline. You're watching the early notes, and they're having conversations as they're formulating how they're going to do their take on the news. And so it's like a window into early reporting in the process of reporting. And I think if we all come to social media with a little bit more of that critical lens, we're going to all be benefited. This isn't gospel, but it's a way to understand the conversations that are happening there, and within that decide who among these people do I trust.
And also, I mean, I'm really interested personally when, the debates are starting, or, there's just a critical event that's happening, and you can follow on Twitter that all the New York Times reporters, all the CNN reporters are literally live tweeting back and forth, and it almost gives it breaks that wall down, right? And it gives that transparency that they're just sort of literally like reporting as
They're experiencing it as you are.
And it kind of, I mean, do you think it kind of bridges the gap between journalists, and especially with what we have going on right now about trusting the media, it lets people sort of see more transparently that people are just, journalists are just people as well, and they're trying to do their best to...
This is a fraught terrain because there is a very vibrant debate within journalism whether that's appropriate for journalists to be doing what they're doing, and the discussion is like, is this breaking political journalism? Because what you get is a lot like, what's going on with his eye? Oh my God, she said that 4 times. It's the kind of bitchy take, right?
Right.
As opposed to a substantive, grounded discussion of policy after some consideration and processing, which is what we had pre-social media. And so it's kind of helped push the whole conversation more into the horse race category and away from the substantive digesting of what really matters. And so it's fun to observe, but I think you also think of that as the dessert, then make a conscious choice to seek out the meat and potatoes when they write a substantive article on the policy later.